What's up, man? How have you been?
Busy. It's been a wild last 18 months. How about you? I see you're a
Good,
dad
man.
now.
I'm a dad now. So that has consumed my life for the last 3 months. He's 3 months old this week. So finally
Mm.
starting to feel like myself a little bit again. But man, what a ride it's been so far. I mean, amazing, but also just nothing
Exhausting.
exhausting. I mean, thank God for my wife. She's been, especially the past like month and a half, she's been really shouldering the brunt of the overnight sessions, but she had an emergency C-section, and man, nobody prepared me for how bad that was going to be from her recovery point of view, and also how much work was going to fall on my plate, because she couldn't do anything, man. It was rough. It was brutal. And I had no idea. We were going in there expecting a natural birth, and then she was in labor for 15 hours, and they were like, no, we got to call it. And we were like, hold up. And next thing you know, man, they're pulling my son out by the leg, and
Wow.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. But everything is good, man. Everything is good. I can't complain. We're blessed. He's healthy. We're happy. How are things at iPullRank?
Yeah, we're solid now. Like I said, it's been a pretty crazy last 18 months. Things are back on the upswing. Agency life. It's peaks and valleys.
Agency life, man. If you're in a place that understands that, this is it. Everyone here, if you're not familiar, inside of the blueprint is agency consultant freelancer, specifically in the SEO space. So you're home. You can talk about your feelings here. We get it. So particularly, I brought you on today. We don't bring in a lot of outside guests, so we're honored for your presence today. But Google recently had their big I/O conference last week, and they officially rolled out, although they're no longer calling it SGE, they're calling it AI Overview, AI Answers, and it's live. And I wanted to get your opinion on your reaction. I got some notes here. I've got some also stuff pulled up on my screen, some quotes that I want to throw at you and get your reaction. So let's just start off. Where are you with SGE and AI, and how do you feel like this is going to impact us as SEOs specifically?
I think Google's AI Overviews product, aka SGE, is not a good product. There's so many examples of people grabbing screenshots and just getting things blatantly wrong. If there wasn't the market pressure, I don't think Google would ever roll something out like this in the form and fashion that it is. And from my perspective, I wonder if they're really thinking about changing the dynamic of trust between them and users, because historically, you look at Google, and if you click on something and the answer is wrong on the website that you clicked on, you don't look at that as Google's fault. You look at that as the fault of the website. Now you've got Google presenting you with false information. They've spent the last 25 years building this trust. They're effectively eradicating it with this bad product. I think it's a cool implementation as far as the technology and retrieval augmented generation and all that. I think all of that is cool. I just think that it's not ready for prime time in the way that they rolled it out.
I've been seeing a lot of that too. I mean, my whole thing with that too, the accuracy issues, but also just the potential user adoption issues because of it. Not only have I also seen that stuff on Twitter. I mean, Twitter is on fire now. I love being a little troll with these people going back and forth with them. But Twitter's on fire now, just complaining, talking about how Google is now stealing content, which I do want to ask you about, the accuracy issues, but also just the user adoption issues. I mean, it does feel like it's being forced on us. And what I know about SEO over the past is that Google does dictate some of their algorithm in terms of what shows up as search results based on user behavior, like what they click on. I feel like the Maps Pack prominence is one of the things that's really moved up in the SERPs over time because users love it. It's actually a good product from Google, especially if you're looking for local businesses. So do you feel like this is something that Google is just going to plant their flag and be like, we had to get in the AI game because of GPT and all these other products? Or do you feel this is something that will just get better with time because it's AI, and the more it learns, the more it understands, the better the results we get? Or do you feel like this is something that they could ditch and just say, we're Google Plusing this thing?
Yeah, I do believe it's something that they could ditch. I think that Google is going really heavy and hard on the AI research because they didn't necessarily have to play catch up here, because all the stuff that ChatGPT built or OpenAI built was on the back of their own technology. So the whole transformer idea, they got it from Google. They said, hey, let's use it to make text. And Google was already doing things like that internally. And when you think about this version of search, Google was already working on that internally. It's just that they were like, we didn't think this was a good enough product to put out. And then the market forced them to do it. But I do believe that they're going to to come up with something better very quickly. And this is just them being like, see, we have the same thing that Perplexity has and that ChatGPT has and so on and so forth. We can still have parity and then make small adjustments and show that we're the market leader still. But I think they're going to come up with a new methodology that's going to yield better and more trustworthy responses. And then that'll just be updated in the back end on AI overviews. And then it'll be like, oh, this thing suddenly works.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be the same thing 6 months from now, or even a year from now. We're just seeing, okay, here's what we rush to get to market now.
Micah said, are they just trying to get ahead of Perplexity? I think you just answered that. Honestly, I think the feature is freaking awesome for users at least. Now, before you answer that, I want to show you a tweet that I found from Brian Casey. I'm not familiar with who he is, but he had this really good kind of tweet storm here where he was talking about how these are good. This is actually from what you normally see on Twitter, especially from SEO Twitter. All you've kind of seen is negativity here. I'm going to present a different case too that kind of goes with this, because my personal thought on this is that a lot of people in the SEO, content publishing, affiliate space, they get very loud on Twitter because that's kind of their platform. But they've been really rattling the cages and, for lack of a better term, I'm not picking on them really, but complaining about the helpful content update, Reddit being all over the place now, and now AI answers that are stealing their content, literally stealing their content. But my position on it is that Google probably looks at publishers and affiliates and says, we didn't ruin your product. We're not stealing your content. You've been ruining our product for the last 2 decades. You have been creating bad results by just jamming all this content. And granted, we know what works, so we're doing it. Where we could say, oh, we're doing it because that's what works. Dude, you can't click on a recipe page without having to scroll through ads, bloat, like just give me the recipe. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
word.
If you Google like what time is a football game, NBC, all these companies are creating 10,000 word articles just to rank for that term to get traffic. So this tweet here talks about how the AI overviews aren't just good, but they're a necessary part of Google's evolution. He goes on to cite about how Google is by far the largest referrer of traffic on the web. And he talks about a lot of things I said, that the SERPs are basically identical. If you're looking for purely informational based queries, recipes, I don't know, travels, whatever that is, the SERPs are the same, man. And we as SEOs, especially as if you were to go back 10, 15 years when we were first getting started in this and we were working with companies, we could compete with the big brands because the big brands weren't investing in SEO. But adoption of SEO, adoption of content, adoption of all this has really commoditized the web. It's made content teams whose sole purpose is to create content to rank in Google. We can have the argument about value of that or whatever. The point is, from a user point of view, which is really what Google cares about. Everyone's like, oh, Google's a corporate giant, blah, blah. That's all true. But at the end of the day, they exist to help make users happy. And me as a Google user has not been happy over the past 4 years because of this. And I see this with our law firm clients too. If you want to rank in the blue links below, it's a sea of sameness. It's like all the same titles because we're all optimizing it against itself. And I think Google's getting ahead of the AI content wave because that's just grinding everything down to a stone and saying, everything is the same here. The argument here is that Google results, because of our own doing as marketers and SEOs, are crap. And now Google is saying, our results based on our data that you don't have access to shows that people don't want to click on these results anymore. They don't want to go to your website. They want the information that they want and they want it faster. And yes, that's going to cannibalize some of your traffic, but it is what it is. So I kind of want like your reaction to this. Are you on the side of the fence where Google's stealing our content, they're ruining the web, they're ruining our business? Where do you react to that whole statement?
Yeah, I'm in both camps actually. And what I mean by that is I do think that it's going to disincentivize people from creating content. And that's already problematic from how the web works. Everything is already incentivized around what clickbait can you make or what things that are already working, skyscraper technique and whatever that we can copy because we know works. And so a lot of that is a function of like, okay, here's how search works. Here's how social media works. That is what it is. But then there's this aspect that introducing these AI overviews does not inherently mean that people are going to click less. And Google keeps saying like, hey, people are clicking more in these boxes or whatever. I think what we've seen in situations where you've had featured snippets or the quick answers for things like what time is the Super Bowl, that doesn't stop someone's search journey. It gives them enough of the overview to then look for more things. Because searching isn't just like, oh, I want this quick fact. Sometimes it's learning about a subject matter or a subject area. And then you learn things as you search and then you start searching for more things. And so I think that's what Sundar is saying when he's saying like, hey, we're actually getting more search activity as a result of this, because you're highlighting more of what the overview is, and then people absorb that quickly, and then they say, okay, well, my next question is this, and then they end up going deeper into that search journey. So I don't think it's all bad, all good thing in either direction. And the other thing about AI overviews is it doesn't work the way that the standard organic listings work. And what I mean by that is you can rank 70th and then pop up in the AI overview result.
Yeah.
Whereas standard organic search is using all these different factors, which we all know about, particularly authority and things like that being a big part of it. None of that is really coming into play in these AI overviews. It's way more about the relevance of the content on your page. I think the person you just highlighted is making some good points, Brian Casey there, but I don't think it's like a clear cut in either direction.
Yeah, it's fair. So there was a quote here from Liz Reed, Google's VP of Search, because there has been, Google's probably feeling the backlash from people, from users, about how this is quote unquote stealing content. So the argument here is that we take this search. I just Googled this peanut butter healthy because I knew that would be something that would trigger this AI result. And basically what's happening is this AI overview shows up here and it's summarizing, I'm assuming, everything that's in Google's index. I don't know if it's going outside the index, but everything that's in Google's index, and it's creating an answer. So a lot of publishers are saying, you're taking our content and using it for your own benefit. We, as a business, as a content publisher, can only exist if traffic goes to our website. If you're taking that content and putting it here and summarizing it, we lose the page views, we lose the advertising, we lose the affiliate deal, we lose everything. This here, you can now see, also has these 3 results under it. And this shows up for a lot, even like local queries too. This is showing up for too. So there's a quote here from Liz Reed, who says that we'll continue to focus on sending valuable traffic to publishers and creator. The links included in AI overviews get more clicks. So referring to these here. And I actually agree with that. A lot of people are calling BS, but there was data. Rand did a really good study on 0-click searches. And he's been rattling the cages about this for years now, about how even 0-click searches, or like the knowledge graph, which I think AI overview is basically becoming, like, people have been a little bit frustrated with not the knowledge graph or the no-click searches, but at the same time they haven't, because then they realize, like, oh, if we can rank here, our traffic is actually going to skyrocket, because to your point, this is a summary that helps people dive more into it. For example, this query here, the way that people search is that if you're searching for is peanut butter healthy, maybe you're having an argument with your wife and you're just trying to satisfy the query. And if that's the case, how valuable is that traffic anyways? Do you really want it? Do you really need it? Is it really worth building your business on top of that? But off the back of that, it's like, okay, now I'm actually looking for recipes, or I'm looking for more information. It does deep link here. And like, I tweeted this and people were all over me about it. But in my opinion, these are going to get a ton of traffic. Is that if you're showing up in these 3, that you're actually going to get way more traffic than scrolling down here. Because if you scroll down, these are all kind of like, do you really want to pop open like 10 tabs and scroll through all this information? You kind of don't as a user. So
that's the thing. So there was a research paper, it's called Situating Search, by Emily Bender and Chirag Shaw. And they dig into this. They're like, what do users actually want to do? And if you go to the second link, it's the HTML version.
Okay.
And it talks about like all the different modalities. Like there's a graph further down that shows the different ways that people search and they think about searching. And so, in some cases, people do want to look at 10 results and then like kind of see what the common things that are being said and then synthesize for themselves. Whereas, yes, there are definitely going to be users who are like, cool, I just want that quick answer. But there's going to be a lot of users who are also going to want to, do their own research. So this right here, where it talks about the different types of searching modalities and whatever. And so one is just like, okay, I just want to find the information. Then another one is like, cool, I want to learn more. And again, as you're stepping through the process, your search journey, you're learning as you go. And as you get more educated, your queries get more sophisticated. And the thing is, with the AI overviews, Google can handle more sophisticated queries now. So they've shown it in the examples where it's like, hey, build me an itinerary for someone that's, like lactose intolerant and blah, blah, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And what's really going to change here is going to be the head terms are going to get smaller and the long tail is going to get longer. And so that is one of the things I don't think we're really prepared for as SEOs, because we're always trying to like find that perfect chunky middle thing, and all that's going to kind of recede because people are going to have more complex questions. And then the other thing is that with the whole like follow-up question thing, you're effectively maintaining a context window across all of these different searches. And so it's really going to be the benefit of the marketer to have more comprehensive content. But again, that's going to be more difficult to sell if we're getting less traffic. So it's going to be a give and take, basically.
Yeah. And that's where I think this gets really interesting too. If we go back to the search here, right? I'm logged in. What Google is saying is that over time, this will learn based on your search behavior, your preferences. I mean, Google has so much freaking data on us, man, especially if you're logged in on your phone or your desktop. They know everything about us. So it then gets interesting because the results that I would get would be different than you based on preferences. So if we're both looking for the best pizza in New York, or maybe that's a bad example, but hypothetically, best pizza in New York, and they know that I'm allergic to cheese or something like that, then we might be seeing completely different results. So as an SEO, I think it gets frustrating because I don't have a clear path to optimization anymore because it just fragments. It's like a spider's web as opposed to a straight line where like we have a straight process that we follow. But off the back of this, and I think this is interesting, I want your take on it because now we're starting to get into, okay, well, what does this mean for SEOs? Keep in mind, everyone here is an agency, like running your own website and publishers, blah, blah. We don't do that. And there's something that I teach and coach here in the blueprint, which is keep the main thing, which especially when it comes to SEO is that if you are not optimizing for the end result, which is more customers and sales, and I don't teach traffic here, I don't teach rankings, we don't track it, we don't care about it. Because if you make your client money, you're gonna make money, period, end of story. So my initial thought on all of this is that these are queries. We don't create blog content anymore for our clients. We don't, we just don't. It's just not a good use of our time anymore because we have all the data in the world that shows, and all the client complaints in the world too, that have shown, hey, Ryan, I'm getting more traffic, but I'm not getting more phone calls. What's up? Or like, hey, great, our search console is going up. We're paying you 10 grand a month. What's the deal? So we've shifted much more into supporting with paid. We've shifted much more into, instead of just cranking out blog content, why don't we do a little video content because it's a secondary search platform. It's going to create a motor on your firm, all that stuff. So these types of queries, I've always said, and when this initially came out, I was like, good, because like this is people just fighting for scraps. For the clients that I work with and what I teach here in the blueprint, it's probably not going to make a difference to our top line anyways. However, we are still assuming that this keeps growing and this keeps taking over. And like, I already see this. I don't know if I can get it to happen here, but best law firm, and probably not going to trigger for this, or let me see, like accident lawyer. So what I have seen when I've tested this before, I'm not getting the result here, of course, but that the maps pack is actually inside of SGE, just like it takes over the whole top here, and I can see it in the maps pack. I guess my question to you becomes, what do you think, like, where does this go for SEOs? Assuming that this learns at the personal level, we lose that linear path to be optimized, technical, create content, build links. Where do you think this goes? Like how, because at the end of the day, people are still going to use search. It's the doorway to the internet. Google's not going anywhere. ChatGPT is not cannibalizing this. Like Google is the doorway to the internet. It's just changing how the individual user interacts with content. Where do you see this going for us as agencies and SEOs?
Yeah, one thing I want to highlight here is that this kind of, 10,000 foot viewing this, search is also a branding channel. And I think because we're so focused on performance, everything you just said, basically, it's easy to not be mindful of that. And a lot of brands, especially the bigger ones, still need to be shown in these sorts of results. And I actually just published a blog post on this on LinkedIn where I talk about blocking your site in these things, whether it's, AI overviews or ChatGPT or whatever, is such a bad idea because people are going to be looking for, let's say as an example, the best basketball shoes for flat feet or whatever. If your brand doesn't show up there because you blocked yourself, like you're missing out on opportunities for there to be subsequent searches about you. So I don't think it's a good idea to let's not focus on this. Like, I think you still need to be here if you ultimately want the mind share with the users you're trying to reach. So I still see that there's value in blog content because, in their journey, you are teaching them how to think about whatever it is that you're selling. So even if it doesn't yield immediate sales, you are now, a part of their thinking for that product or service. But I get what you're saying with respect to, cool, it's gonna drive results because ultimately that is what clients want from us. But it is still like a marketing mix that we need to be thinking about and where we play in.
Okay, I understand that completely. Sorry, I'm just leaving a comment on there. Everyone show Mike some love on LinkedIn too. Give him a little boost. It's funny because one of the things that people hate when I say on Twitter is that if you really have an issue with this, you can just no index your website and they won't steal your content anymore. And people are like, no, I'm not going to. Of course, you're not going to do that because Google's your daddy and you make all your money off of it and you just want to complain. So I want to ask you too about ChatGPT because ChatGPT just keeps getting better in more ways than one. We were using some AI writing tools and we've completely scrapped them. We're just using ChatGPT as a writing assistant now. All the other writing tools are like, we're not going to waste our money. You guys are nuts. You're all pulling from the same anyways. So something else that I'm constantly looking at because for a while, I'll never forget, I think it was February of a year and a half ago when I was sitting outside by my pool with my wife and I saw people tweeting about ChatGPT when it first came out. I'll never forget, I looked at her and I was like, babe, we might be in trouble. This might be a problem for my business. But then, especially now, the more and more I've understood with it, it is getting better at search because I actually asked it just this past week. I haven't tested this in a while. So I went in and I was like, hey, I got in a car accident. We work with a ton of accident attorneys. Can you recommend me the best accident attorney in Miami? And it gave me 3. And it linked out to their website. It's changing from what it was. But I kept on asking it. I was like, how did you come up with these results? I need to know exactly the criteria that you looked for. And the biggest thing was essentially reviews and reputation, how it was pulling it. It was pulling from Google reviews. It was looking at Avo reviews. It set a criteria for 4.7 stars or above on average. It looked at years in business. It looked at the attorneys that they had on staff. So a lot of kind of similarities from what we hear with Google. So I just wonder, and this is just kind of my hypothesis on where search is going, is that forever we've talked about getting off of the linkless kind of algorithm. I don't think we'll ever fully be off links for a lot of reasons, but I do think that these tools are getting so much better at understanding more human level behaviors for what humans actually want to look at. And I just think that the optimization process ideally will become vertically integrated where people will be using ChatGPT for certain searches. It's going to be on your phone. It's going to be integrated with Siri soon. It's going to be as a part of our hardware. I think that for what we use it for might be a little bit different than Google. In Google still, I agree when you were talking about how certain people want to see the 10 link results. I think commercial-based queries, that's the case. I don't want, and Google knows that, one, because they're not going to cannibalize their ad business. And 2, you can already see this too. If you look, I just search for best accident attorney, they're not going to give us an AI result there because I don't think they want that level of decision making anyways. I think they want to put that on the user and they also want to sell ad space. I do think that certain pockets of Google will always be protected. And that's also what Google will be best for, better than ChatGPT. Because to your point, somebody in the article was like, I don't want AI, I want a search engine, I want to look. For certain things, absolutely not though too. There's a lot of queries, which I think of the large majority of Google queries, Google's probably sitting there, why are you guys fighting us on this? Do you really want people to go to your website for like, is peanut butter healthy? Is this what you guys have come to? Just SEO teams have gotten so big and so bloated. That's where we're competing on these terms that mean nothing to anybody. Just give the people the answer and have them come back. Trust me, guys, if people keep coming back to Google, you're going to get much more value than if we send them to your website anymore. You know what I mean? So my thought is that search is finally going to become much more holistic in terms of across platforms. And I do think a lot of those unquote ranking factors will be vertically integrated based on brand, based on your reputation, based on review, depending on the industry, but based on those signals that we've kind of hypothesized that they've been in Google for a while. Like, do social signals matter? Do you think that these LLMs will be so intelligent that they'll be able to look at these things and be like, yeah, like we see what's popping on Instagram, Twitter, we see everything. And we're delivering you these results based on all these things. And I do think that SEOs are going to struggle with that because SEOs, again, are very linearly focused and being, we got to do technological. I think all those things will matter, but very small. And compared to people do want to see certain types of things with certain queries. And I do think that it's going to be frustrating for SEOs, but I don't think this industry is going to go anywhere. I just think that we have to rethink. We have to be a little bit better marketers, I think, and holistic thinkers, depending on the industry that we want to optimize for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot needs to change in our space. I mean, that's fundamentally been true for a while, but just the technology gap between what we do as SEOs and what our software allows us to do versus what Google can do. It's been such a disparity, at least for the last 10 years. And also what we're looking at where SEMrush is showing the AI overviews. My question is, one, how are they doing that? I've yet to see one when I was logged out. And not to say that they can't be scraping logged in because, everyone is doing it for SGE. But again, I've yet to see one logged out. So what are they showing these for? I'd be really curious to know about that.
Yeah, I'm curious too. So for context, people, if you go to semrush.com/censor, this is new here. And you click on it too, and you can see the number of occurrences that the AI overview is happening for. And I don't know. And it's funny because I had this open actually because we have a tool called the traffic projection tool that forecasts organic traffic based on positions, blah, blah, blah. And I actually sent this to my partner. This SGE thing, even if it only takes up 0.01% of searches, could potentially destroy this tool because people are going to be like, oh, what about AI features? You know, it's taking up all the searches. And we actually use SEMrush's API. So I sent this to him to see if we can actually get access to this data. So, I mean, I'll keep you posted. I don't know if we can or not, but I agree. It's very interesting. I don't exactly know how they're getting it, but I look at featured snippet and I just think that these two things are just going to become one and the same. You know, I actually think that this is where the extent of it, I think people are making a big deal about it, but I think it's gonna be like, yeah, it's 5% of searches, guys. Like that's all it's showing up for, you know?
Yeah, I think the bigger deal though is that we don't know what Google's gonna do with ads as a result of them rolling out AI overviews. They're having their, what's it called, Google Marketing Live event this week, so we're gonna find out. But right now, we still have no idea. I've started to see the card format for ads, so maybe that's what they're gonna do, but we still don't know. Also talked about the thing where they can inject links on the page when you go there and then do an affiliate sort of thing. So that could be a play. But again, we don't know what the impact of any of this is going to be just yet.
I mean, one thing is for damn sure is that they're not going to get rid of these ads. What I've seen so far is that it's ads on top of the SGE. Just like traditional format.
I saw that 7 months ago and then didn't see it again.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question, but one thing is for sure is that there's going to be ads somewhere. But it's interesting to see if they try and put it as cards in there, because isn't this kind of, just service an ad then? Why don't you just advertise everything then, if that's the case? Every result should be an ad then. If this is supposed to be the most democratic of responses, which is summarizing the internet, how would you also place an ad in there? If it's going to be interesting, I don't know. But I mean, one thing's for sure is that there's going to be ads.
But I feel since they're generating the copy, they could just generate an ad in there if they really wanted to.
They could, and then just, I guess, sell it to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
But then it just becomes the relevance of it though too, because for example, if weight loss medication is one of it and you have, I don't know, it's going to be interesting. Tim said, it seems like this applies differently to things like healthy peanut butter than people searching for services, just like when you search for an attorney, or am I missing something in this AI overview? Yeah, I think that's fair. I also think that we're just the tip of the iceberg here. I think that Google will roll this out to more queries. But I also know that they were testing SGE, the previous version of this, for a long time, and it was a failure, man. It was just bad. It was just a bad product. Everything about it was bad. So this just might be the extent of it. We don't know. But Tim, my initial hunch is that it's going to be the equivalent of the answer box, which has been around for years, which is just essentially taking from one website and putting it there. It's probably gonna be for the same type of thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you know, during the SGE test, there was a lot more queries that were triggering it. I think I saw it for weight loss medication at some point. I definitely saw it around services. So, you know, it's completely in fluctuation right now. They're probably gonna say queries are off limits. They've been saying YMYL queries would be, but then there were situations where you would see it for that. So I anticipate that what we're seeing isn't the final, and eventually it's going to creep into more queries.
Yeah. Mark Antoine asked, to your opinion, will the ranking criteria be impacted? Are we going to test the algorithm to understand how to adapt our SEO strategy?
Yeah, so we've already done that. Getting into the AI overview is not that difficult. Again, it's far more about relevance than, you know, links or anything like that. It seems AI overviews are a separate microservice that kind of don't use all the same signals. They just take everything that's most relevant to that query, but the query is not just like what you type in, because they expand the query in the background by adding synonyms, adding entities, things like that. And then they look at the best results, most relevant results in that expanded query. They feed 10 of them to the language model to then generate what the response is going to be. So it's just way easier to get in there just by making your content more relevant. There's also a paper called Generative Engine Optimization, which we took a look at and then turned into a process where you got to add quotes, you got to add citations, you got to add statistics, and those are all things that help you rank better in those AI overviews. But the first thing you got to do is identify which chunk or which passage in your copy is going to be the most relevant, and then optimize that accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too to see. So the top three here are not the same as the top three actual SERP results.
That happens very often.
So this AI overview, are you saying that it's basically only summarizing the ones that are in here? Or is this just saying that's it? Okay.
Yep.
So do you have any idea or hypothesis about how it determines if this is a different algorithm than the traditional SERP? Because otherwise it would just list out the traditional SERPs underneath here. So is it a different algorithm than ranking here organically?
Yeah. So it's taking, 10 candidate pages out of everything that reviews, and then it looks specifically for the passage in that. So it could be a full paragraph, could be a sentence, whatever section of the copy, and then it feeds that. And if you click on one of these, it should take you to the scroll of text on that one. Yeah, but it's going to have the scroll of text in it, and it's going to take you to the block that it used. So WikiHow specifically cuts that out, but go to another one of these results.
Let's try all of them.
So Healthline. Now they're doing it too. Because what you can do is add the header where it automatically puts you at the top of the page. But go back to the SERP.
Yeah.
Let's try the XLS medical one. So yeah, you see in your URL, it's got the scroll of text. Mm-hmm. That's the copy that it used. It should be highlighted on the page. It should actually drop you right into it. But that's the text that was used to inform the AI snapshot.
Interesting. Here's Mike's article on here too. So
yeah,
I
this is a step-by-step process of how to do it.
I like it. Dan, when did you put this out?
Back in February.
Okay,
yeah.
Nice.
So we did the first study, sizable study. It was like 91,000 keywords. We're in the process of doing 500,000 keywords with some SEMrush data too, just so that we can definitively show like some correlations between stuff. So that should come from us pretty soon.
I like it. And in terms of, let's say you got one of your clients to show up in the AI overviews, are you able to track that, or does it just show up as organic search? And did you see any spikes in traffic if it's happened?
So it's happened a couple times. As far as tracking it, it's difficult because Google said that it's already available in GSE. It's just you can't like parse it out.
Okay.
Yeah, we have an internal tool for, scraping. And so we can track whether or not they appeared or whatever. But yeah, like you said, it's so dependent on the personalization as well. So it's like, you don't know if everyone's seeing it. You just know that for your search, you saw it.
Yeah. Interesting. So we talked about stealing. What's your thought on the Reddit stuff, Mike? It's just another one that,
I don't think Reddit needs to be in more things. I don't think Reddit is a quality source for anything. I know a lot of users have said it, and that's why Google put it in there. Yeah. But I don't find any of that useful, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, this is a bad one. I would never take Reddit advice for losing weight fast. I'll say this though, because having a kid, I've been searching a lot. I don't use Google for anything anymore for this. I just go directly to YouTube for most stuff now. But I've definitely appended a lot of queries with Reddit because sometimes I don't want Healthline's advice on like sleeping a baby. I just don't. Like I want to hear real stories from real parents, real mothers, not like somebody. I guess also my knowledge as an SEO understands that a lot of these articles were just built based on team hired a writer to do research that's scraped from other people.
Yep.
It's so funny that SEOs get so mad. It's like, dude, you scraped your content from somebody else and just rewrote it. Let's be real here. You didn't do any research here.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why like when that SEO heist thing happened, I was like, yo, y'all are such hypocrites. He did it with generative AI, like you did it by farming it out to India. What's the difference? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's not much of a difference, I guess.
The Google research section has so much value. And, I think in the SEO space, we tend to look for SEOs to tell us what to do. I haven't done that in a long time. Like I spend more time reading the white papers, looking at what other people in computer science and AI are doing, because right now Google is being really forthcoming with how everything works. Almost everything you would want to know about how Google functions is out there. It's just you got to understand it and stitch it together yourself. So yeah, I follow a lot of the people that are actually Google engineers, Google researchers, and also like the researchers at OpenAI and things like that, because a lot of them were Googlers before, and they're talking about what they worked on at Google in hindsight. Like, yeah, when we did this and this, and you'll pick up a lot of those nuggets as to how things work.
I just ask people like Mike. I bring them on podcasts and I ask them questions. I'll let you go, man. I appreciate your time as always. Dropping one more question.
Here's one,
of course. A little off topic, but given Siri uses Google, what predictions do you have, if any, around this new potential partnership between Apple and OpenAI? I imagine a future where the Google interface starts to disappear eventually to be replaced by voice search?
I don't know. We went down that path a few years ago where everyone's like, voice search is going to change everything, and it didn't. I think there's a lot at play here, and a lot of it is generational. Because when you think about it, we all have the ability to generate, amazing content right now using generative AI tools. How much of your feeds changed? Not much at all. It's still people doing the same they've always done rather than making something very creative. So I think until the next generation grows up with this stuff natively, kind of in the same way that we had Vine and all these other things back in the day, but we didn't have that many influencers until a generation grew up with Instagram and TikTok. So I don't think the modalities of search are going to change dramatically. Even right now, when you compare how much traffic Google is getting versus what ChatGPT is getting, it's infinitesimally, it's really small as compared to Google's. And 40% of the people that leave ChatGPT go back to Google anyway, likely trying to verify the information that they got. And then another part of this question is, I don't know that Siri uses Google. As far as I knew, it was using Bing.
Yeah, I think they might be referring to the OpenAI partnership that was just inked.
Yeah, so that part is going to change everything, because OpenAI's version of the vocal assistant, or whatever you want to call it, is fantastic. It's almost exactly like Scarlett Johansson's character in the movie Her. It sounds that way. You can interact with it like that. It talks to you and has vocal tics that, map to how actual people work. And then it's got the power of ChatGPT behind it. So I suspect that more and more users are going to use that moving forward. But I also don't know that voice search or just chat in general is the best way to have your information needs met, especially for a complex subject. So I think it's everything else that we're saying. It's going to fragment more, but it's not going to be a huge part of the interaction with information. And so you still got to keep Google as your primary channel to focus on. It's just that you've also got to provide things for these other channels as well and make sure that your brand is still visible.
Yeah, I guess we've all, if you were to watch Gary Vee 5 years ago, he was all in on voice. And I remember at that time too, I was like, there's no way, Siri sucks. I can't even get her to respond to her name, let alone whatever. I do agree. I've seen the OpenAI demos for their voice. It looks really, really good. And I could definitely see myself using that more. But there's a couple caveats to that. One, so much of search is extremely private, extremely private. Unless you're in your bathroom alone, you probably don't want to be having your search engine read aloud half the shit that you actually type in there. That's one. Two is, to your point, we actually consume information a lot faster visually than having to hear it back. If your toilet's exploding, I could see maybe, hey, I need a plumber, just call the one with the best reviews right now, connect me. I could see that happening. But I can't see myself being, hey, I need a new pair of jeans. Can you buy me a new pair of jeans? Unless it intimately understood your preferences. But the way that capitalism works is that there's so many companies, there's so many brands, styles change so much. We wear things once. I can't see voice being really good for commerce unless it's like, hey, Siri, I need new paper towels, something like that. And even that, I have Amazon Alexas all over my house and I never use it to voice order stuff. Never. I find it easier to just go on my phone. It takes probably 3 times as long, but it's just easier to do it. I don't know why. So
yeah, but you're also sure of what you're getting, because if you order via voice, you don't know what brand it's going to get you. You're going to end up just having a headache to send a thing back. I mean, I think until we all have representative algorithms that understand us in really intimate ways, I don't think it's realistic for that sort of voice action to be your primary way of doing things.
And that's what Gary Vee's whole thesis was that brand is the most important thing, which he's always stood on. And he was like, you'll just order stuff and then we'll know your brand preferences. But there's so much stuff where brand, I don't have a preference. It's just it's much more complex than that. It's not that simple to be voice is going to become the new thing. I think, to your point, it's just going to fracture how we search. There's certain things that I use ChatGPT for over Google. I've been cooking a lot more since my wife's had the baby. I exclusively use that. I'm like, hey, these are the ingredients I have. Give me something I can make in less than 15 minutes. I don't think Google will be able to touch that. Never. I've been testing it also. My wife and I are going to North Carolina, our first trip with a baby. And I'm like, hey, can you plan me a road trip and find me 4-star hotels along the way? And it was pretty good for that too. Again, something that Google would, I just can't see Google being able to do. But at the same time,
that specific use case though, Google has shown.
I know.
Like the whole itinerary thing.
So the final piece of that though is that I didn't use it to book though, because I still had to go to Google to look them up. Like to your point about searching, I guess the big thing here is that it's very rare. It's kind of like one call close. They don't really happen. It's not like a one search. It's very rare that you go to Google, search for something, buy it, and you're done. Like unless it's something very, very simple, very low cost, very commoditized, like paper towels, and like sure, but I'm going to Amazon for that anyways. And still I have the freedom of choice and all that stuff based on shipping, based on quantity, based on price, based on reviews. You still have the freedom of choice, which I think is just built into our DNA. And that's where I think bottom line here as SEOs, I don't think the sky is falling with any of this stuff. If you understand the nuances of it, there's going to be more opportunity for you because the casuals in this game are going to fall by the wayside. And as long as people are searching, period. It doesn't matter if they're searching Google or ChatGPT or TikTok. If AI continues to grow at what it's growing at, in the future, we'll probably be optimizing for the same thing, which will be even better. And like it will create more opportunity.
I think we're just at an inflection point to some degree. Same thing as when like Panda and Penguin happened. And everyone's like, oh, what do we do? SEO's over. And then a whole bunch of people disappeared. And then it became more like content marketing. Technical came back into it. Then we were basically in the same spot that we started. Now we're at a point where everybody can make infinite content. Google's reacting. And now we've got to figure out, okay, how do we make things that are actually valuable that will drive traffic? It's just the same game with different toys.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that one, we'll wrap it, Mike. Again, I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. Tell the people how they can find you one last time.
Yeah, iPullRank.com. I'm iRank on all the social channels. And yeah, just look me up on LinkedIn, Mike King.
All right. Appreciate it, Mike. We'll be in touch. All right, brother.
Later.
All right, later.